The origins of the new era of art in Tigua can be dated back to 1964, when the indigenous people, thanks to the agrarian reform, got free and obtained the pieces of land they were using, and that until that moment were state property. Some of them got 10 hectares, others 5, some just 500 square meters of land. In this moment, the paths of indigenous people of Tigua took many different directions. Some of them were looking for a job in cacao or banana farms, others were selling food, and so on. The first new type artist of Tigua was Julio Toajiza, uncle-in-law of Luis' mother. Julio was traveling around indigenous villages and buying antique objects to sell them later to museums and private galleries. When the objects became harder to find, Julio started to make copies of drums called tambores and selling them as well to people who were interested in the cultures of Latin American tribes. However, in the mid-70s, he could see that the tambores are not so well sold as they used to be. Promoter of arts Olga Fischer suggested him to start with painting flat figures, which are easier to transport than large drums and for that reason more attractive for potential customers from abroad. It took him 1 week of constant thinking about the meaning of the words of promoter. What are the flat figures? He had to visit Olga again and ask her. She realized that indigenous tribes never painted paintings to put them on the wall, so Julio cannot understand her advice. She pointed on some paintings that she had in her office and she said, "Look, Julio, can you see these square paintings? That's what you have to make so your art can be sold all around the world." Hearing those words, the painter got excited and he started new life epoch that was also beginning of new era of art in Tigua. Various artists appeared all around the indigenous communities and the pictures were well sold to the galleries and tourists until the dollarization in Equator, when painters didn't really bother to count with new prices of their paintings and they just changed the symbol of sucre for a symbol of dollar, which made it 25 times more expensive than before, and generous galleries closed their doors in front of new wave of young artists. Back in the year 1979, the parents of Luis Ugsha were looking for a reliable income. Working in agriculture wouldn't bring them much money, so Francisco, the father of Luis, asked his uncle-in-law Julio to teach him to paint. The first pictures from painters of this new era were figures or objects on a white background showing celebrations or everyday duties of villagers' life. What Francisco added was a kind of perspective presented by different colors of the background: blue for the sky, green for the mountains, and gray for the lowest parts, roads, where he drew people. But it wasn't easy for the beginning artist. He didn't know where to sell, and he didn't know how to write, so he couldn't add his signature to the paintings. For that reason, his first tryings to sell them were not successful. He exchanged one of his paintings with a school teacher for writing classes. Firstly, he used only his initials before he learned to write his whole name. To prevent the same situation in the case of his own children, Francisco insisted on giving them a good education. And as it goes in indigenous cultures, a part of his knowledge as well. Bakers' children learn how to bake a bread. Painters' children learn how to paint. One day, Francisco gave an unfinished picture to 7-year-old Luis and told him to paint it with colors, shadows, and details. Few days later, a group of foreigners was passing by the village, and one of them tried to communicate with Luis about the pictures they had in their house. No matter that they didn't speak the same language, Luis sold his first painting for 3 sucres. What a wealth for a young boy! Here starts the way of an artist, nowadays known as Luis Alberto Ugsha or El Señor de Tigua. Significant part of every culture are legends. During our interview, Luis told us 2 tales from Tigua, and we would like to share them with you. The first one is about the condor, native bird of South American mountainsides, and important symbol in indigenous cosmovision, which was transmitted to Luis through the stories that his grandfather used to tell him. When Pachacamac, the god creator, created Pachamama and all the creatures, he could see that he cannot communicate with them. They were just too distant to his divinity. As he felt a necessity to know what is going on the earth, one stormy night he created a huge egg, and that same night the first condor was born. The bird became a messenger of Pachacama, making a transmission of what he could see while flying about the land every day, watching the mountains, forests, rivers, animals, and people. But after some time, the bird felt lonely, watching the couples of the earth and thinking why he is the only creature that doesn't have a partner. Condor cried, and Pachacamac, seeing that misery, blessed human family, and soon a girl with pure heart and really bad eyesight was born. Condor fell in love with this human being, but he didn't know how to express his love to a woman. He was watching her as she's walking over the hills with her herds and 2 dogs, and the girl could feel his look. When she was 15 years old, she was still unmarried, and that was something rare in indigenous communities. One day, she went too far from her house. Condor couldn't wait more. He stole a hat and a poncho from sleeping shepherd. He tore quinquilla flowers, breathed over the petals, and put them in the hands of the girl. The petals have closed inside. The girl couldn't see it, of course, but Condor could, and he felt joy because now he knew that this girl is his destiny. In the eyes of the girl, Condor with poncho and hat looked like a shepherd. They were talking whole day, and when the night was coming, the girl was tired, so Condor suggested that he can carry her on his shoulders. She accepted and sat on his back. It took her a while to realize what's happening, but when she did, it was too late. They were flying far away from the mountains she knew. Amapola, one of the dogs, were following them while Azucena, the second dog, led the herd back to Girl's village. After a few days, Amapola returned and she led the girl's family to Condor's nest. After a few months, they found her and they took her against her will back to the village. Just in time, on her body the feathers were already growing and she was turning into a bird. But the condor didn't give up. He was watching carefully and waiting for his moment. And the moment came soon, in the time of harvest, when the girl's family was working on the fields and the girl stayed alone in the house. While cooking, she accidentally set fire. "Save me, Condor! Save me!" she screamed. Her family was already there fighting with the fire, and when they see the condor coming, they were going to fight with him as well. But this time he was too fast. He flew down and took her on his back far, far away. Villages were following them again, but many months passed, so when they finally found Condor's new nest, the girl was girl no longer. She turned it into a bird. What could the family do? They accepted it, and they organized a wedding so two birds were connected according to the laws of nature and the laws of people as well. The second tale is also a story of love that was not accepted by the families of young couple. Luis told us about the way his parents got married, and he described us the way how to prove love with flowers Quinquilla, the ritual that also appeared in the story of Condor. 14 years old Francisco fell in love with an 18 years old girl. As we know from the story of Condor, most people in indigenous communities got married before they reached 15. Usually the parents plan who will get married with their child. Love does not matter, unless the lovers prove that it's more than a love that connects them. It's a destiny. Father of Francisco, traditional man, was against the marriage because, according to him, husband has to be older than wife. So Francisco decided to make a proof. He went to look for sacred flowers Quinquilla, and when he came back, he called the community to witness the ritual. He breathed over the petals and put them into the hands of his beloved girl. This tradition is simple, but is respected. If the petals close inside, it's predestinated to this couple to be together. If not, no matter how much they love each other, they can't get married. In this case, the petals closed inside, and the love and the destiny was proved. The members of the community who had been against the marriage accepted it and gave their blessing to the young couple. And they have 11 children, I am one of them, and they are together until now, finished Luis the story of the flower that witnessed the love not only of the legendary condor, but also the love of his parents. The art of Tigua is a colorful world. Each picture is inspired by culture of tribes of Quilotoa Lake, its folklore, traditions, festivals, legends, and cosmovision. The artists expressed their deep connection with indigenous roots and demonstrate how proud they are of their origin. Hopefully, it will not disappear under the strong influence of foreign cultures. May the new generations find the beauties remaining in their land and decide to keep them alive. The Tigua para el Mundo is a movement of artists who made this decision. For an individual not well-known indigenous painter, it is hard to find a gallery that would host single-author exposition. But as an artistic collective, this group exposes pictures all around the equator and supports the spreading of national pride and history.